So hello and welcome to this webinar that is about consultants and how to get ongoing revenue. And yeah, let's just wait a minute for everyone to join. And while we are waiting, can you just let me know where did you join this webinar from? You can just send me a message through this question and answer pane, just to let me know where you're from. And it would be actually useful for me to find out where all the attendees are coming from. And while we are waiting for your answers, just a couple of notes. We are recording this webinar and you'll be able to watch actually the webinar from the same page where you actually registered for this webinar today. So if you joined through Zoom, then actually you can watch the recording of this webinar on the same page where you registered on Advisera website. If you join through YouTube or LinkedIn, then you can actually see the recording of the webinar on the same page, basically where you are watching the webinar now. So it's basically on the same page where you first registered or got in touch for this webinar. Okay, second thing is we'll create the PDF presentation deck from this webinar today, and I'll explain you how to download this presentation deck at the end of the webinar today. So if you can stick to the end of the webinar, I'll explain you where to download this. Okay, I see a couple of people letting me know where they're from. So I see from Germany, from Saudi Arabia. Okay, great. Thank you for letting me know. By the way, I'm calling in from Zagreb, from Croatia. Great. Okay, so I think most of the people have joined. So let's start with the webinar. So again, thank you for joining this webinar, how to get ongoing consulting revenue from clients. My name is Dejan Kosutic and I'm the main expert for ISO 27001, NIS2 and DORA in Advisera. And Advisera is a company that makes compliance easy to understand and simple to use. And this webinar today will be streamed through Zoom, also through LinkedIn live events and YouTube live. And it will last approximately 40, maybe 60 minutes, depending on the number of questions you'll have. And I'll try to make this webinar as interactive as possible. The more questions you send, the more interesting this webinar will be for you, but also for me, because I would rather answer questions rather than present something theoretically. So by all means, please do ask questions, and you actually do not have to wait for this Q&A session at the end. You can send me questions during my presentation. Okay, I also see one participant from Leeds, from UK. Great, thank you. Okay, good. So let me move on to the next slide. So basically, why is this topic so important? Well, it's important because as a consultant, finding new clients is very hard. And it's expensive. Basically, most consultants, especially if they are smaller consultants, they take 30% or more of their time actually finding new clients. And finding a new client each time, it's basically something that is really, really expensive or hard to do. So it's actually easier if you can find some, I would say, continuous source of revenue without actually having to sell each and every time that you need some new consulting job. So what I'll present in the webinar today is how to create this ongoing consulting service that you can actually sell to existing clients, so that you do not need to actually find new clients all the time. And this webinar today is intended for consultants, of course, both beginners but also experienced consultants. So I'll try to kind of cover both of these angles for both, let's say, beginners and someone who already has a number of clients. Good. As you will see, one of my main points today will be actually that these ongoing consulting jobs actually offer probably a greater revenue potential than one-off jobs. And in a couple of slides, I'll show you what I mean by one-off jobs and these ongoing consulting jobs. But the point is that, even though these one-off jobs like, implementation projects and so on, even though they actually bring you a higher revenue per client, they actually might not be as profitable as these continuous ongoing consulting jobs. And again, I'll show you this math actually during the webinar today. Okay, so let's see the agenda. So first I'll show you some ideas on what these one-time consulting jobs could be, and also these continuous consulting jobs. Then I'll show you what are the requirements from ISO standard, meaning ISO 27001, but by the way, actually you can apply the same thing for ISO 9001 or 14001, because you will see that the clauses actually match perfectly ISO 27001. And I'll also show you some requirements from EU regulations. By that I mean DORA, the regulation, cybersecurity regulation for financial entities, and NIS2 cybersecurity directive for critical infrastructure companies. So I'll show you which requirements from these frameworks actually create the need of a maintenance, or let's say continuous consulting work. Then I'll show you this potential, let's say in terms of revenue for one-time versus continuous consulting work. Then I'll go briefly through a couple of, let's say, techniques on how to present these continuous services to your clients. And I'll also show you a couple of tools that Advisera offers, so that our company offers for consultants, especially when it comes to these continuous services. And of course, I'll go through this Q&A session at the end. And by the way, if you want me to focus on any of these topics, just send me a message through this Q&A panel or through the chat window, just to let me know if you want me to focus on and spend more time on any of these topics that I mentioned. Good. So let's see. What are these one-time consulting services, and what are these continuous consulting services or jobs? So I would say that a one-time consulting service could be, let's say, a gap analysis, right? When you do a gap analysis before a company goes for the full implementation, they want to know where they are. You can do this gap analysis. You can do this, one time. Companies don't need to do this several times. Sorry, let me go back. The other very common type of one-time consulting job is implementation project, right? A company needs to get compliant with, I don't know, ISO 9001 or 27001, and then the consultant is actually helping this company, write the documents, setting up processes, doing the, let's say, initial training, these kind of things. You could also do initial risk assessment, right? This could also be a one-time job, especially if you're doing cybersecurity consulting. You could do initial training only. So some companies are requiring you to do only this initial training, during their implementation project. It actually does not need to be necessarily related to this implementation project itself. And some consultants are also doing this preparation for certification. Typically, this is done as part of initial implementation project, but it could theoretically also be a separate consulting job. Now, all of these things, all of these services, consulting services, have one thing in common, and they're one-off, right? Once you do them, typically there is no need actually to repeat them as your service to a consultant, to your clients. Now, on the other hand, there are these potential continuous consulting jobs that actually where the need does not end, where the need is continuous, where repetitive, so to say. For example, ISMS maintenance, right? If you are in ISO 27001, then Information Security Management System, ISMS. It needs to be maintained, but actually it's valid also for other standards like QMS 9001 and so on. So what does this maintenance mean? That you are doing, let's say, internal audits for a client, that you're preparing them for a management review, that you are doing the updates for risk assessments, that you are maintaining their policies and procedures, that you are creating these matrices and the dashboards and reporting in general. So all of these things actually could be part of this maintenance service that you could offer to your clients. And again, this is something that you do, continuously. This is not a one-off thing, because this maintenance is something that is happening continuously. Or if you want me to use this term from this PDCA cycle, right? Plan to check and act cycle. So these cycles of C and A, so basically check and act, they're continuously happening. So basically anything that is related there, you could help your clients as a consultant. Then internal audit. I know a couple of consultants that are doing only internal audits, that they're specialized in this. And then basically, again, this is something that needs to happen at least once a year for each company. And this could be a very good source of revenue. Then something that is not very often seen, but also second-party audits. Especially if a larger company has implemented, let's say, an ISMS, and they need to do a thorough check of some of their particular suppliers, then they actually send auditors to do this so-called second-party audit or supplier audit. And again, there are some consultants who are specifically specialized only in this, and they do these second-party audits. And of course, this needs to happen, for each client at least once a year, maybe even more often. Then there is also security awareness, maybe even a training, but I would say awareness is something that is even more needed, because with training, usually when you train someone, then they don't need to be trained anymore on the same thing. Unless there are some new people in the company, right? Whereas with awareness, this is something that you have to repeat year on, every year, right? So security awareness or security awareness raising is something that is a continuous job that I would say fits very nicely into this idea of offering continuous services. And ultimately, there is this vCISO. So for people in security area, you know that this is this virtual CISO service. So basically this means that you are offering outsourced Chief Information Security Officer service, where you are only a fractional CISO. So you're providing your services, let's say, only, 10 hours maybe per month. To a client, especially if this is a smaller company and they don't have enough human resources to manage their security, then you are an outsourced security manager, or vCISO, as it is usually called in this industry. So all of these things that I've written on the right-hand side are, ideas on what you could actually provide as a continuous service. And if you come up with any other ideas on what could be a continuous service, let me know through this Q&A, through this question pane, and just to kind of share with other people. So the point is, there are lots of things that you could do continuously that you might actually never thought of. And again, the purpose of this webinar is really to show you and kind of remind you on what this could be. Now, we'll share with you a link to an article called How to Maintain the ISMS After the Certification. And you can actually see the link now in this chat window. And by the way, if you join the webinar through Zoom or through YouTube, you'll be able to click this link and it will open up in your browser. But if you join the webinar through LinkedIn, then because of some limitations in LinkedIn, you can't really click this link. But you can actually, the workaround for this is that you copy the URL and paste it into your browser, and you'll be able to open this link without any problems. Anyway, in this article you will see, listed several things that need to be done continuously as part of maintenance, and basically these are directly the ideas on also what a consultant can perform for their clients. Okay, very well. Now let's move on to the next slide, and this is basically what are the requirements that somehow, let's say, dictate what needs to be done on a continuous basis. Now, why am I emphasizing the requirements here? Because, as you know, it's very hard to convince your clients to do something if this is not really needed. So I would say that the main argument that you have to use with your clients is that anything that must be done because of a standard or regulation, you will find it easier to sell, right? Because if something is optional, it's much harder to sell. But if something is mandatory, then you have, I would say, a door, let's say, open, if not completely, at least partially. So let's see by each standard what actually requires these maintenance services. So when you speak about ISO 27001 and other ISO standards, well, basically these are clauses 4.4, 6, 7, 9, and 10. 4.4 is about basically, you know, managing and maintaining the whole ISMS. Clause 0.6 is about risk management, setting objectives and tracking the fulfillment of these objectives. So again, for risk assessment, you will have this continuous, let's say, re-evaluation of risk assessment at least once a year. Clause 7 is about support, so providing resources, training, awareness, document management, all of these kind of things. So again, something that needs to be done continuously. Clause 0.9, this is about internal audit, measurement, reporting, management review. Clause 10 is about corrective actions and improvements. So in all of these areas, actually, you can serve, you can help your clients with maintenance and basically, you know, supporting all of these things that I mentioned. Now let's go for internal audit. This is directly required by clause 9.2. And yeah, I mean, companies must do it at least once a year, even more often if they're a bigger company. So this is something that if the companies do not have their own internal auditor, then obviously they will outsource it, and this is a great opportunity for you. Second party audit, basically this is covered with control A.5.22. Now, of course, it doesn't say explicitly that you have to perform, that it doesn't say explicitly the companies must perform second party audits or supplier audits, but it does say that the companies need to supervise how these companies are delivering, how their suppliers are delivering their services from security point of view. So of course, some companies might actually decide to do also these audits as well. If this is something that they require from their suppliers, then they need an auditor, right? Again, this is an opportunity for you. Security awareness, this is directly required by clause 7.3. And basically, if you are providing this vCISO service, then this is all clauses, right? Then this is, I would say, a step further from just maintenance, because I would say maintenance is more, I would say, focused on this, let's say, clauses that are not directly related to operations. So you probably noticed that in the first row, I did not write the clause number 8. Whereas if you are vCISO, then you should, you know, take care of all the clauses, including clause 8, which is about operations. You know, basically making sure that all the policies and procedures are really, I would say, used and complied with on a daily basis by all employees. So this is really operational stuff. And then if you are a vCISO, then you are taking care of that as well. So I would say that out of all of these rows here, vCISO is by far the most, I would say, in-depth service that you can actually provide on ongoing basis for your clients. Okay, I have one question coming in, so let me just read it. So Giovanni is asking, what criteria and benchmarks would you recommend for building a sustainable and competitive pricing model for consulting services in areas like NIS2 and similar frameworks, especially considering the varying needs of SMEs versus larger enterprises? Okay, let me answer this question a little bit later on, so it's kind of not directly related to what I'm showing you now. So I'll keep this question in mind. I'll get back to it just in a couple of minutes. Okay, anyway, let's see what NIS2, so this cybersecurity directive requires, and how does it fit really with this 5 types of services that you could offer. Again, you have this Article 21.2, paragraph 2, which specifies various things that need to be done. It's not really clear from NIS2, is this something that needs to be done continuously or one time, but basically it does need to be done continuously. You can't, let's say, do access control only once, right? You have to do it in a continuous way. So I would say this is Article 21.2 is the most relevant for maintenance. Internal audit, the relevant article is this 20, Article 20, paragraph 1. And here you actually have these requirements for that the top management needs to be informed and is responsible for everything that is happening with cybersecurity. Now, internal audit is not directly mentioned, but if you want to inform, I would say in depth, your senior management, then you can only do this really through an internal audit. And by the way, I forgot to show you actually how this looks like on screen. So let me just switch the screen. And let me now go for NIS2 directive. So this is the full text of NIS2 directive. You can find it on our website. And yeah, we'll share now the link with you for this full text of NIS2 directive. And let me go now to this Article 20. So it's governance. And you can see here, so members of the senior management are required to follow training. Okay, this is not what I meant. So Article 20, paragraph 1. So basically here it says that senior management needs to be responsible and oversee its implementation, right? And internal audit is basically one of the key methods of overseeing an implementation of cybersecurity. Let me also show you this big guide to ISO 27001 clauses. So if you don't have the text of the standard, you can actually take a look at this big guide, because it also provides you an overview of all of these clauses of the standard. So for example, when you scroll down, you can actually see all the main clauses. So yeah, let's see. Okay, internal audit. And let me open it like this. So basically for each clause, you have an explanation on what it is, what are the most common documents that are used for this kind of clause, what are the implementation steps, and finally, what is the audit evidence. So basically you have a very detailed breakdown for each clause and what it requires for 27001, but you also have this for all the controls. So let's see, yeah. 5.22 that I mentioned, and here, yeah, you have this overview of what is required. Again, what are the documents and so on. So anyway, we've sent you also the link to this big guide for 27001, and you can then explore yourself further. Okay, going back to my presentation, second party audit, it's basically relevant for NIS2 Article 21, third paragraph, because it specifies that companies need to dig pretty much deeper into what their suppliers are doing. Again, this audit is not explicitly mentioned, but if you really want to dig very deep, then this is, this second party or supplier audit is one of the best methods really to dig very, very deep when it comes to your suppliers. Security awareness is directly mentioned in Article 20 of NIS2. So let me just go back and quickly show you how this looks like. So going back to NIS2. So this is Article 20, paragraph 2. So required to follow training on a regular basis, and basically that it is actually for the senior management and for all the employees in the company. Okay, yeah, so basically this is for NIS2, and yeah, if speaking about vCISO, it's these articles 20, 21, and 23. So article 20 is about governance, 21 is about cybersecurity controls, and 23 is about incident reporting. And yeah, I've seen some, smaller companies that must be compliant with NIS2, and they're asking, okay, how do we do it? We don't have a security officer, we have no one trained. In this case, this kind of a vCISO service is a very, very attractive thing to offer. So my point being here is that, you know, all of these 5 types of services are applicable not only for 27001 but also for NIS2 if you want to focus on NIS2 clients. Okay, let's see what DORA is requiring. So Article 13, and let me actually switch to my screen and show you here DORA. So also full text of DORA, you will see also the link in the chat window. And yeah, let's go for Article 13. It's a learning and evolving. It's basically a kind of very comprehensive, detailed article which speaks about, you know, combining maintenance, reporting, training and awareness, improvement, all of these things really. So and basically, you know, if you want to offer some kind of a maintenance service for financial entities, according to DORA, then Article 13 is probably the best, I would say, focus of yours. So anyway, you can see it's pretty lengthy, and yeah, it mentions post-incident reviews, right? Then let's see also capabilities and staff to gather information on vulnerabilities and cyber threats and so on. So again, and analyze their impact, right? So it's for, of course, mid-sized, larger organizations, this is probably in-house, but for smaller ones, it's questionable if they have this kind of capabilities. Okay, also digital operational resilience testing. It's very complex thing. It's hard to do for smaller organizations on their own. Monitor effectiveness of implementation. Reports to management body. Of course, security awareness programs, monitoring technological development on a continuous basis. So again, lots of things that are really, I would say, very interesting for maintenance. Okay, internal audit is directly required in Article 6, Paragraph 6. It's definitely something that needs to be done. Again, smaller financial organizations probably will not have their own internal auditor, and this is, I would say, certainly an opportunity. Second party or supplier audits, this is something that is required in Article 28.6. Again, this is a more direct requirement. For security awareness, as I was showing you, this Article 13.6, but also there are requirements for security awareness in the Articles 5, Paragraphs 2 and 4. And finally, if you are providing this vCISO service, then you actually cover, you know, all the chapters. From Chapter 2 is about ICT risk management. Chapter 3 is about incident reporting. Chapter 4 is about digital operational resilience testing. Chapter 5 is about dealing with ICT, third-party ICT risk. So all of these things are something that that need to be under the control of a CISO if a company has it internally. If not, they have to outsource this kind of work. So my point being here is, you know, out of these 3 frameworks, DORA is the most specific that requires these things. And again, okay, I would say many financial organizations already have their security officer, but some do not. And I see a big opportunity there. But also similar thing with 27001 and NIS2. Not as precise requirements, but still, I would say, very interesting ones, or very, I would say, demanding ones. And basically, they're pushing towards main continuous service there. All right, now let's see what is the potential really of these one-time services versus continuous services. So for one-time jobs, typically you would have a smaller number of bigger contracts, right? These contracts would be, I don't know, 10,000 euros, 20,000, 50,000, maybe 100,000, depending on the number of clients. So big money there. But the problem is you will not have many of these, right? You will have maybe 1 or 2, maybe per year, and this would be it, right? It's hard to get a big job from a client. Now, what is the problem? The main problem, I would say, with these one-time jobs is that you have high sales costs, meaning typically these smaller consultancies spend, I would say, at least 30% of their time finding new clients, right? So doing the outreach, advertising, the sales meetings, following up, writing quotes, all of this takes time and effort, and and keeping this constant pipeline, I mean pipeline of getting new clients is really hard. It's not easy. So once you get a client, it's a big money, but it's hard to get actually to this every time to get a new client of this I would say size. And another thing that is hard is really it's hard to deliver consulting services because you're not so flexible. So for example, what can happen is that, let's say that you have this big contract with the clients, and basically you have arranged the whole next week actually to be on site with them to help them out, and then they simply cancel the whole week because there was some emergency, let's say, there. So, and what are you going to do for this whole week, right? Then you're actually losing money because you're not doing the job there. Also, if you have, let's say, a couple of bigger clients, let's say that you have 3 bigger clients, it's very hard to juggle between them because ultimately you'll probably have to kind of prioritize between these bigger clients, and then some of them will suffer. So the flexibility there is low. It's not easy to kind of balance between these bigger jobs. Now, on the other hand, if you have these continuous supporting services, you will have smaller contracts, right? Because they typically don't need that amount of time, but you will have hopefully or probably more of them, right? And the good thing here is that there is no sales cost. I mean, after you initially acquire a client, every year or every next month, so let's say that you're doing internal audit service, right? You have to acquire the client for the first time, but every next year you will get this client without doing any sales, right? Because they will simply go back to you and hire the next time. So it's much easier actually to get this additional revenue because there will be no sales cost, no sales effort. It's actually much easier to plan and execute this consulting delivery because, for example, let's say that you have, that you have a couple of these consulting service. Let's say that you have 10 clients in parallel for which you are actually doing this kind of continuous support. Let's say that you have scheduled internal audit next week. Client actually cancels this meeting because of something, some other priority, and then you basically switch to other clients, and you simply start doing the work for other clients, and nothing bad will happen really to your operational thing. You will not lose much time. So you're much more flexible with these smaller jobs. Because you have a bigger number of clients, it's easier for you to kind of combine things and simply invest your time in things that are the most let's say appropriate for that moment. And yeah, I finally think that it might be easier actually for these smaller continuous support services. It much better fits this remote work. So if you primarily want to work remotely, then it's easier to perform these continuous support services remotely rather than doing the initial implementation job. I'm not saying that initial implementation jobs or one-time jobs are impossible remotely. They are possible, certainly, but I'm just trying to point out that these continuous consulting services are easier doing remotely because you can more easily agree about this with the clients. Sometimes clients might actually require you to be present on site when you are doing, I don't know, some kind of an initial implementation. But for ongoing things, there actually might not require these kind of things. Okay, we'll share with you a couple of things here. So we'll share with you an article called 3 Phases of Delivering ISO 27001 Consulting Job. So it's not directly related, I would say, to the topic here, but it could give you some idea. If you're a new consultant, it might give you an idea on what is typically a part of this one-time consulting implementation, big implementation job. Also, if you're interested in remote work, I will share a link with you to a webinar called How to Perform Consulting Work Remotely. So if you want to kind of focus more there, then you can take a look at this other webinar of mine, and you'll learn how you can do this remotely. All right, now let's go for the next slide, and this is mainly about how to sell this service, how to present this service to potential clients. So as I already mentioned, I would say the most important thing is really to focus on mandatory activities according to a standard or according to a regulation. So if this is mandatory, then clients are going to accept this kind of an activity or your service much more easily, right? So don't try to sell them things that are nice to have. It's not going to work, right? At least not in compliance compliance world, right? So focus, explicitly. Okay, this article tells you you have to do this continuously. Do you have your own resources? No? Fine, hear me out. This is, how I think it could work. Okay, a couple of more tips here. So if you are doing an implementation project, then this could be a very, very good entry for you to actually, after you finish this implementation project, actually to start doing these continuous services. So what you should be doing is that you need to educate your client during the implementation project on what kind of things, what kind of activities they need to do after you're gone, right? After you complete your implementation project. So you have to educate them because, otherwise they will say that they never realize that they have to do internal audit every year. Most of these clients think, okay, I'll do it once and then I'm fine. Well, you're not fine. You have to do it right every year before the management review, before the surveillance audit. So this is something that will, again, give you if you're doing the implementation there, it gives you a very good opportunity to actually educate them on what means to maintain their ISMS or whatever system they have. Now, further, what I think is that you should always present not only your one-time services, but also your continuous services. So if you're doing a presentation pitch to a potential client, okay, present them that you're doing the implementation project, that you will help them initially comply with some framework, but you can also mention that you're doing also this maintenance. It's not going to hurt, to mention this. Also in your quote, when you send your official quote, have two parts. This is the initial part for the initial implementation. It costs XYZ, but also we can offer you also this ongoing maintenance after the initial implementation job is over. So always try to present both of these one-time and continuous services, because you never know, what the clients will consider better. Even, in case when they actually have to choose between a couple of consultants. If they see that a consultant is able to do not only initial work but also continuous one, they actually might choose you exactly because of this capability. And also, I think it's important to keep this communication channel open with clients. So let's say that you completed your implementation work there, that your contract has ended, that they did not hire you right away for any continuous work. You have to be present somehow with them. Maybe you have some kind of a newsletter that you are sending to your clients where you would remind them that you're actually doing this continuous work. Maybe you're publishing blog posts about I don't know, maintenance services or whatever things or requirements about these standards or regulations regarding maintenance, or you want to go for, I don't know, for conferences, right? And then meet your clients also there, just to remind them that look, this is something also that you have to do. Also social media, if you have following, if you have followers on on I don't know, LinkedIn or Twitter, then this is something also that you can mention every now and then. So I think that it's important that you keep this communication channel open towards your clients, even though that they initially did not hire for any continuous work. Okay, we'll send you also now a link to an article called How to Sell Consulting Services. So basically it's sorry, it's not an article, it's a webinar. So if you want to learn more, about techniques for selling consulting services, you can sign up for this webinar recording, so you will be able to watch the whole recording immediately. Okay, now let me go back to this question that I received earlier. So a question from Giovanni was, what criteria and benchmarks would you recommend for building a sustainable and competitive pricing model for consulting services in areas like NIS2? Especially considering the varying needs of SMEs versus larger enterprises, regulatory complexity and perceived value. I'm not sure if I understood the question well, but I would say that the most important thing when you're selling a consulting service is that you are focused, okay? That you have a particular niche that where you are actually the best at, okay? So actually, and this is, by the way, if you listen to my webinar, the recording of the webinar, How to Sell ISO Consulting Services, this is basically my main thought there. But let me just very shortly kind of tell you what I mean by this. So, or actually I'll give you my example of my own consulting practice that I started, 20 years ago. So basically before I became a consultant, I was working in a bank. So I had pretty good idea about how banks work, what are their pains and so on. And then at that time when I started, of course I trained myself in ISO 27001, but at that time the central bank of my country actually published very strict cybersecurity requirements for banking sector. And then I connected the two things together, right? I connected my previous banking experience with ISO 27001, and then I started offering to these banks the service of offering the compliance with these banking requirements, which were, by the way, almost based on the 27001. And I had a unique I would say competitive advantage there, because almost none consultants had actually banking prior experience. So I was the only one, almost the only one, that had banking background with and a very thorough training in 27001, and this is something that enabled me to sell and to get many clients in the banking sector. So my point being here is you have to find something that you know the best, and then you have to, I would say, adjust your service that actually takes advantage of your unique experience. So you focused on a niche, you develop a specific service for that niche, and always based on your unique experience, prior experience before you actually started to be a consultant. And this is how you differentiate. And now I come to the point of pricing. If you're differentiating, then you can actually charge more, right? Because these clients then actually see additional value from you, and then you can charge, I don't know, 20 or 30% more than your competitors, because you're saying, look, I know, I don't know, banking the best, because this is something that I had in that I was working previously, because all the other consultants will struggle actually to understand how banks work, but I don't struggle, therefore I charge more, and I will ultimately actually bring you more benefits and spend far less time with your employees, rather than some consultant that doesn't understand this good enough. So, not sure if this answers your question, but this is how I see the way for you as a consultant to differentiate and therefore charge more and have more work to do. Okay, good. I also see a question from Ashoka. Can you give us some thoughts on how to price continuous services? Packages, retainers, hourly rates, value-driven pricing is easier on the big one-off type projects, but maybe not continuous services. Okay, I didn't think this through, but I would say that, let's say for one-off jobs like internal audits, it's much better to price it, not by hour, but you simply say, okay, since you are, I don't know, you have 50 employees and I don't know, I know that I will spend 2 man days for internal audit. You simply, price it as a package, right? And you say, look, every year that you use this service for me, it's going to cost you, XYZ money, and this is it. So that's a package. Now, when you think about second party audits, so supplier audits, you can do more or less the same. If you do, let's say, vCISO service, you will have to also package it, because it's going to be very hard to charge it by hour, because so you simply have to try to calculate the average amount of time that you will spend each month. Okay, some months you will work less, some months you will work more, but on average it's important that you actually have a profitable engagement there. So I would say in majority of cases, I think that this packaged type of service, so that the end client knows exactly the final cost, I think it's easier to sell. If you try to charge per hour, I'm not sure if clients will agree to something like this, because they don't know the end price. All right, now let's move on to the next slide. Yeah, so let me show you a couple of Advisera's tools for consultants. I know that if you watch my webinars, you may have seen some of these, but nevertheless, so there are basically 3 tools that we developed specifically for consultants. So Conformio for consultants, this is the implementation tool for ISO 27001. Company Training Academy for consultants, this is the online training platform. And Consultant Directory, this is basically a listing of consultants. So let me show you one at a time, so just give me a second. Okay, so basically this Conformio actually enables you to implement the whole standard, but also to maintain it. So I'm showing you now the screen where you actually have, once a company implemented all the steps and basically passed the certification, then it needs to, of course, to maintain the ISMS. And what Conformio does, it basically shows you all these recurring activities that need to be done, and when they are scheduled for, and what tasks need to be done for each of these activities, right? Also, there are some continuous activities that also need to be done, and so on. So, but the point being here is that when you have this kind of a tool, it shows you exactly what you have to do. Now, of course, some clients prefer to do this on their own, and then they basically have, they use Conformio as an end client. But some clients are actually saying, no, this is too much for us. We want actually a consultant to actually do this for us. And in this case, we have this version of Conformio where a consultant actually uses Conformio not only to implement the standard, but also to help maintain this kind of ISMS for clients. Why? Because it's much faster, right? If you do everything manually, it will take you, I don't know, 2 or 3 times more. So basically this is something that saves you time. And also to show you just how this looks like, okay, these are the implementation steps for Conformio. This is an audit and evidence. So once you want to collect the evidence and see if the client is ready for certification, then you can use this audit and evidence. But what I wanted to show you is this consulting dashboard in Conformio. So basically what, in Conformio, you can have one or several clients. So in this case, you can see that there is this 𝗂𝗵𝗶𝘀 company, which is, but you can actually add a new client as a consultant, and then you can have one dashboard where you see all of your clients, and therefore you can handle many companies in parallel. Okay, a second product that I wanted to show you is this Company Training Academy. Company Training Academy is online cybersecurity training platform, which enables you to create cybersecurity awareness, but also NIS2 training or 27001 training or DORA training. Again, companies can do it for themselves, but also you as a consultant can do it for them, right? And I'm showing you actually this consultant version here, which is, by the way, also white labeled. So we enable actually consultants to upload their own logo so that actually clients do not see Advisera logo. The clients actually see your logo, consultant logo here in this user interface. Anyway, I'll show you very briefly how to create a training. Let's say that you want to set up a new training, and let's say that you want to go for this general cybersecurity. This is cybersecurity awareness. Let's say that you want awareness for, let's say, IT employees. And then you click continue. You can select the country. You can select the language. There are a couple of languages now. We are also translating this into several languages. You click next. And then what is the most important here, actually, the system automatically suggests you all these lessons, which are in the form of video. So each of these lessons is actually like a video, so we can take a look at the preview. Okay, and it suggests actually a list of all these videos or lessons that can be watched by this particular group. You can also see the relevant clauses here. And then you can, I don't know, remove some of these lessons. You can, I don't know, change the sequence of the lessons and so on. You can play with this around. Then you can click continue, and then you say define how often you want. So let's say that you want this to happen once per week, or let's say Wednesdays. You define the start of the program, then you click continue, you define the users, and then you enter their emails. And then after you activate this program, then the system starts sending out these invitations for the users, right? And then you actually start measuring, you know, who went through the through these trainings, if they're late, if they're not late. You can actually also create a test. This is also something that I didn't show you. There is a version with the testing, so you can know exactly, you know, if they passed the test or not. And create all kinds of reports. So the point being here is that you can very easily create any kind of cybersecurity awareness training, or NIS2 training, or DORA training, or ISO 27001, whatever you want. And this is how this consultant dashboard looks like. So basically here you can actually see as a consultant several clients that you have, and you know exactly how many training programs you have, how many students, and so on and so forth. Okay, a third tool is this ISO consulting directory. So basically this is something that if you are actually our partner, then we list you as a consultancy here. And what you can actually do, so if you open any of these, you will see that then each consultant can list their services, right? So what services? Short consultations, implementation, internal audits, second party audits, and so on. So each and every consultant here can list their services, and this is how this is one of the ways for you to find new clients. All right. Yeah, several questions that came in. So Jane is asking, can we do GDPR training in this tool? And do you plan to add other standards related to cybersecurity in Conformio for consultants? I already have 2 GDPR platforms I like, but not ISO NIS2 yet. So for Company Training Academy also has a series of GDPR videos, something like 50 videos for GDPR. So if you want GDPR training, you can do it right now in Company Training Academy. Now, Conformio for consultants, right now we have only ISO 27001, but we are planning to introduce other frameworks. We might actually go towards ISO 9001 next in Conformio, but we'll actually decide about this in the next couple of months. Okay, let me see other questions that came in. Fred is asking which standards are covered in Conformio, so 27001. Steve is asking what kind of pricing are available for Conformio for consultants, Company Training Academy, and so the best thing is actually if you schedule. I'll give you. Okay, let me go to the next slide, and in the next slide I'll give you this link to schedule a call with our partner manager, and then you can actually find out the pricing for consultants. Okay, same question from Ashoka. Okay, very well. So let me switch to my presentation. Okay, I'll skip through these challenges because we're already kind of late here, and go for the conclusion. So, you know, I would say that, you know, these continuous consulting services bring in, I would say, less money per client, but ultimately they might be more profitable for you because there is no cost of selling, almost no cost for selling, and they're much more flexible, right? So regarding profitability, actually they might be a much better solution for you. And of course, you can use these tools that I've shown you, and we'll actually share with you now this link to schedule a call with our partner manager, and he will, show you in more detail how 𝗲𝗴𝗶𝘀 works, how Company Training Academy works, but also he will tell you what kind of pricing do we have for consultants. So this is something that any tools, any of our products that are intended for end clients, we have public prices, but for consultants, meaning for our partners, these prices are something that you can get only directly from our partner manager. So please schedule a call with him, and he will give you all the prices there. Good. Now let's move on to the Q&A section. If you have any questions, please do send them through this Q&A, through this question pane. And while actually you're sending these questions, so let me just give you a couple of announcements. So first, if you need to ask me any question in private, you can send it through email, and we'll share with you now my email address. So feel free to use this email address to contact me directly and ask me any question. Second thing, you can follow me on LinkedIn and YouTube. So on LinkedIn, I post daily, basically, the news from this compliance world, cybersecurity world. So if you want to keep up to date, you can follow me on LinkedIn, and on YouTube, I publish various videos on ISO 27001, NIS2, DORA. So if you want to learn in this video format, this might be the best solution. And I'm planning in a couple of, maybe in a month or two, to publish some consulting specific videos. So basically where I will educate consultants on various topics. So I'll publish all of these things on YouTube. Also, I have this Secure and Simple podcast, and this podcast is specifically focused on consultants. And basically it helps consultants and CISOs become better in their job. And what I do, actually, I interview various successful consultants and ask them basically how they became successful, and then you can actually learn from them. And by the way, if you're interested in, for example, how to sell consulting services, there is an excellent interview on this podcast with 𝗂𝗵𝗶𝘀𝗏, and he explains actually how he uses content marketing to actually promote his own consultancy. So if you're interested in learning about consulting work and how to do it better, take a look at this Secure and Simple podcast, and you have the links now in the chat window for all of these. Okay, and third thing I wanted to announce is my next webinar. It will be about how to use ISO 27001 for NIS2 and DORA compliance, and I'll explain how this ISO 27000 standard maps with NIS2 and DORA, and actually how you can use it for easier compliance. And we also share with you now the links for all the upcoming webinars. Okay, good. Now let me see the questions that I received. So I received a question, a couple of questions before the webinar. So let me go through them first. So a question from 𝗵𝗿: how to start an ISO 27000 consultancy? Okay, so to start a consultancy, first you need to know in depth, again, I would say you need to be, knowledgeable about some particular industry, and then of course go through various, through at least one training for ISO 27001. This could be, let's say, ISO 27000 lead implementer course or lead auditor course, and then start to market your services, and then go with new clients. And we'll share now with you these links to ISO 27000 lead auditor and lead implementer courses. And the good thing about these courses, they are actually free, so you can sign up for all the video lessons for free, and we charge only for the certification exam. Okay, Sasha was asking, what's the best way to find clients? Take a look at these podcasts, the podcast that I was showing you. Also take a look at the a link to this webinar on how to sell ISO consulting services. This is probably the best way to do it, to learn about how to find new clients. Glenard was asking, what are the benefits versus challenges with regarding to conducting remote audits based upon clients in other countries? Well, certainly the advantage is, the benefit there is that you have lower cost and much wider reach. Because if you are based in one country, you can basically do it for almost the whole world, right? Whereas the challenge is that in some cases, clients are not going to accept this kind of a remote audit. But, you know, with this interconnected world, with, you know, these tools like Microsoft Teams and Zoom, it's I would say pretty easy to do the audit remotely, and you know, I would try to focus on these kind of things, again, unless a client specifically asks you to be on site, which of course then is much expensier because you have to charge your traveling costs. Abdul was asking how to get ongoing revenue from clients, especially from the utility sectors serving for the government in the field of a particular field. So I would say that again, you will find it much more easy to do this, to sell this kind of a service, if you already have a background, if you have some specific knowledge about this particular industry. So if you already worked in this industry, then you will find a much easier to sell to these kind of clients, because then you can emphasize that you are specialized in this particular industry. Okay. Nader was asking how AI impact our revenue and replace our role as a consultant. So, and by the way, this question of whether AI will replace consultants, this is what I basically ask each of my interviewee in this Secure and Simple podcast. And basically they answer, all of them answer basically the same thing. First of all, that AI is not going to replace consultants, but AI will change the role of the consultant. Because each consultant will have these unique insights which the AI cannot have, because AI does not have the access to all the data, right? Most of this valuable data is I would say, accessible only to consultants, or let's say experts in a certain field. But you know, many, I would say, easier or repetitive jobs will be done by AI. So, for example, okay, I was showing you this company training academy. Very soon we will introduce a feature where you will be able to type, let's say, in a certain request or a prompt, and then AI will create automatically a training for you, video training, right? So, I mean, why would you, create a presentation, shoot your own video, or doing things like this when this can be done automatically? So, I would say that consultants will have to adapt a lot to this AI, but those that actually will know how to use AI in a proper way will be far more ahead of any competitors. Okay, good. Now let me go through a couple of questions that I received now, and yeah, if you can stick for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, I think that I'll cover all the questions. So Gerald is asking, can independent training groups be set up for customers, and can focus training campaigns be set up? For example, one set of training targeting phishing and another set focusing on general data protection. Yes, so if you're using Company Training Academy, you can set up several trainings, several training programs, and you can typically you would focus on different target groups. So let's say you would have one training program, so set of videos for, let's say, senior management, a different type of training program for, let's say, IT employees, a different type for, I don't know, for project managers or project team. So I would say that the more you kind of focus the videos on what is appropriate for the target audience, the better training outcomes you will have, because people will find this more interesting, and they will not try to avoid this kind of a training, because they will see that this is relevant for their job. Okay, Ashoka was asking, Dejan, this a lot of useful and valuable resources for us consultants. When do you sleep? Well, I try to sleep enough, thank you. So thanks for for this comment. Okay, great. I think this is all for today. So let me, Jane is asking, Aha, she says this is very useful and pragmatic as always. Okay, great. Thank you for this. I'm glad that you like the webinar. Anyway, so just to wrap up the webinar, as I mentioned, this 1 hour webinar was too short really to go into details of how to perform consulting work or how to sell consulting services. And for that purpose, please do take a look at my other webinars. Also, try using these tools and see how they work for you, just to kind of be more effective with the training. And of course, take a look at my podcast, where you can really learn a lot. We'll publish the PDF presentation deck together with all the links from today's webinar in a clickable format at the same page where you're watching the webinar now. If you actually join through YouTube or LinkedIn, simply stay on the same page, and then in the comments you will see all these links, and you will also see one link to download the PDF presentation deck. If you join the webinar through Zoom, then all you have to do is, you don't have to do anything, because we'll send you the presentation deck through email latest by tomorrow morning. And finally, we'll send you also this link to the survey. So it's only short, so only 3 questions. So I would appreciate if you find time to open this survey and give me my feedback so that I can improve my webinars. And this would be all. Thank you very much for your participation, and I hope you have enjoyed this webinar. Have a nice day.